Well, hello and welcome to On It Not In It, the interview series. I'm your host, Todd Eppert, and today I'm joined by Roy Stevens, who is a co-founder and owner at Henway Technologies. Roy, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, my name is Roy Stevens. I have a background in schematic design and PCB layout. Did that for about 10 years with our co-founder who has a software firmware background. And then I left the design element of the business to him, and I started up a manufacturing element. And together we offer a full service electronics solutions package. When I was growing up and when I was very young, I was the son of a landscaper. My dad owned his own company. Then he turned that into a tree removal company. And then I took all the logs that he had cut down and I started a sawmilling company. Did that through college. And I got to the point where the next step in my investments were too much. I needed a building, I needed very expensive machines to produce lumber that just wasn't paying. And so I chose electronics because I knew I could get started with a little cheap oscilloscope and researching stuff on the internet, and I can make essentially at the time I thought anything I wanted. And so all the ideas were just ones that were in my head and I could bring those to life. So then I pursued a career in electronics. Got a job with a local electronics design company where I was a hardware engineer, and I got partnered up with a firmware engineer, always knowing that I was going to leave that someday and then start my own company. So I paid really close attention to how the business worked. During my time there, I would take a look at how did they quote jobs, how did they put out the fires, and what did the contracts and the deals look like. And then when I felt confident enough, I got a couple of clients of my own, then left and pursued this full time.
Excellent, excellent. So, would you say that the spark to start your entrepreneurial journey was it really created by growing up with a dad who was a landscaper that owned his own company?
I can't say that it was, because if anything, that would probably have turned me off to the idea, seeing him working in the business, never on the business, and seeing the late nights and the pressure to keep going. Um, I believe what I believe that I felt like I wanted to start my own business when I just realized that this was a young me that I just liked my ideas a lot more than, let's say, like other people's ideas. Now that sounds bad. Somehow there's something good in there, but it was this burning fire that said, hey, look, I want to be in control. I want to be able to work harder when I want to um, reach my goals faster. And I want the ability to throttle back on that when I feel like taking a break. And having a 9 to 5 job, I felt like I just felt the reins on my personality and who I was. And it really felt like I was in a box and I wanted to break out of that box.
Awesome. So some need for freedom, a little more control, and that's kind of what really pushed you into that. But you mentioned already watching your dad as you were a kid. One of the misconceptions I think is that people start a business and they think, "Oh, this is gonna be so easy, and I'm gonna be able to do whatever I want." And you talked about how hard your dad worked, and he worked in it, not on it. And we're trying to get you to work on it, not in it. So, what are some other misconceptions about running a business that you've seen, and that how have you addressed them?
Say the biggest misconception is I always thought I would be much further along than I actually am. That's just the feeling, though. I've always had that feeling. Even when I accomplish my goals, I still feel like I'm 2 steps behind of where I need to be. And so, a common misconception is that you're going to get there someday. Um, but perhaps the reality is it's the journey that you've got to find, that you've got to enjoy. Another misconception although I always knew it was a thing, but never known the severity of it, is how much, let's say, how much you have to be the one that is always positive in the company, right? You can never be the one that comes in and says, "All right, guys, well, I had a bad week or I had a bad month. I guess it's all over now," and just throw on this pouty face, because everyone looks at you every day as if you're walking in and jumping on the table and with a megaphone, and you're just shouting above the crowd, the little things that you say, the little comments, the little whispers. And so everyone holds on to that. And not everybody has that sort of like vision to hang on to all the time. All your employees, like, you can see it, you know where the business is going, but a lot of people are just relying on what the positivity that you have. And so much like a teacher at a school, every day you've got to come in and be ready and perform. You got to have your lesson plans the night before, things like that. You've really got to bring that in as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and be that personality that these other people are counting on for you to have. And so, like I said, I always knew that that was a thing, but it's a lot. It's intense. It's every day. There's no breaks.
Yeah, that's great feedback, and that's a great leadership lesson. I mean, the powers of the leader, they don't even realize they have them sometimes. It's just the power in words. When you carry a title like owner or chief executive officer or president or whatever your title is in your business, you carry weight every time you walk through the door, and to stay positive and keep your energy up. You're right. That's really, really tough when you're having a bad day, but it's important. So that's great feedback. So I didn't add, so how do you address that? Are you in a roundtable? Do you have people that you talk to? How do you address that and stay positive?
Well, I'd say a lot of it is personal training, right? It's you wake up in the morning being like, okay, okay, so what's going to cross my desk today? What how am I going to react to the work, to getting that work, to getting that really bad news? And that just needs to be something that you can turn on when you get to the office, being prepared for that, but you got to be able to shut that off. And so that sort of, being able to shut it off takes constant practice. And so it takes about, let's just say, give it a couple of years to start building up on that sort of resilience there. But as far as speaking with people, now I have I'm fortunate enough to have a co-founder. That was very nice. The co-founder relationship started purely professional at the beginning. We were never friends before this. And that co-founder just so happened to be somebody that had a personality that reflected well on mine. So my co-founder is very pragmatic. Everything needs to be thought out very well. And then my personality is never keeping things the same. And so between the both of us, him and I can bounce ideas off of each other. I think it's very important for any young entrepreneur to have somebody out there that you can get a different perspective from, because when things get really low and you're having a bad day, there's got to be somebody out there for you that you could just do a dump on and just say, look, I'm having all these things, life is just going wrong, but they're going to convince you that it's just your perspective. Get back on that horse and keep and stay positive, and it works every time.
Awesome, love that. It's great that you have your co-founder, like you said. That's fantastic. So that's where the safety relief valve is, or pressure relief valve is. It sounds like you get to bounce ideas on.
You know what? And what also works too is reading books as well, books and podcasts. Every once in a while, I'll have a bad day, and the co-founder will have a bad day, or we'll be having a bad week or whatever. And you can always go to those podcasts. Podcasts are relatively new for the older crowd, and so you want to be able to flip those on and listen to a good episode, and it puts things in perspective for you.
Sure, that's great. Appreciate that. So you just kind of talked a little bit about, sometimes you both have bad days, but so you're a little over 11 years in now in your business. So congratulations. A lot of businesses don't survive past 1, let alone 5. So the fact that you've gotten past the 10-year mark is a real feather in your cap. So congratulations on that. But So looking at today, what are your biggest challenges today now that you've survived kind of the normal hurdles in the beginning of just getting startup and traction?
So the challenges today are the challenges today are unlike the challenges from the beginning. So the challenges at the beginning is when you have no money but lots of time, right? And so you've got to try to figure out how to make more money, and money is just always seems to be what's holding you back. You've got these big ideas, but you can never quite implement it because every time you go astray on some idea, you've got to come back and start working on the bottom line, the thing that makes you the money. Then what happens is you are in the business. So if you survive that first year, that's great. That means you've got a way to make sales, you got a way to deliver. And then comes that 5-year mark that you had brought up, very significant 5 years. After 5 years, what happens is you start to kind of be saving up money over those 5 years. And then you go, oh, great, now it's time for me to jump on that thing. And so you start get distracted and start working on that project that you ultimately want to take you to the sky. And you end up burning through all that cash, and you put yourself all the way back from the beginning. And by that time, you have office space that you're renting, you've got some overhead, you might have some loans, and it's not just you like it was maybe in year 1 or 2, or you and another gentleman or another person, I should say. And then so now your problems are a little bit bigger now. You took that safety net and you tried to use it, and now you don't have it anymore. The problems we're facing today is like that, but much larger. So now we've got 20 people working here, and if I go off on some idea or a tangent, if I think, hey, look, I got all this employee power, and we've got all these this equipment and machines, let's go try to find an application for it, and you change up the business, you can end up making you can end up going far distances, but in the wrong direction. And in order to just turn that around, and you're unable to turn that around like you were when you were much smaller. So the challenges today are really doing that 5-year, 10-year, 20-year sort of planning and sticking to those plans, which is very challenging for somebody like an entrepreneur that wants to just keep making changes and making splashes all over the place. It's a level of maturity that you've got to keep under control. And so that's one of the challenges that I face just personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So there comes a time in your business, what I hear you saying is there comes a time in your business where you actually have to make a plan and then stay the course, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you're constantly trying to do whatever the prettiest flower is or the squirrel, kind of thing that distracts you, then you lose direction, you lose focus, and eventually you get off track, and you probably spend more, like you said, than you have in the bank. You overspend because you're chasing too many ideas, and then you lose track. So totally understand there's an absolute need to stay focused and energized on what's driving the bottom line, and whatever your strategy is to move forward, and then drive it and make the plan and then work the plan, right?
Yeah, and it also confuses the people too. So as an entrepreneur, if you come in every week or every month with a new idea and a new thing, you start to lose that sort of like, it's one thing if an employee does it or a manager does it, they wake up on a different side of the bed that morning and they want to now all of a sudden do projects this way or start managing things that way. But if you're the owner, it injects a lot of doubt on those that are trying to follow what you're doing. Unless, of course, you have a very high performing team that goes with you step by step, but that's not always the case. And if it is the case, now you have you plus these group of bandits that are taking you again in the wrong direction too fast.
Yeah,
and, you just gotta be careful with that. It's an entrepreneurial mindset doesn't always mix well with long-term planning, staying focused, and staying on course.
Yeah, totally. So the importance of long-term planning there, and then you're also talking about this need, and you work in an industry that's constantly evolving. The world is constantly evolving. I mean, who would have predicted 3 years ago, right? Pandemic. So we've had to react to all of those things. But in a normal course of days, you've got a plan, you're working your plan, but how do you stay innovative?
So um, actually, the so for staying innovative, those are ideas that kind of come naturally to an entrepreneur. Like every business is different. Even if you're the same business, you're still different in your own way. um, you do the typical things. You talk to the experts. You hang around people that are of similar mind with you, and you bounce ideas off of. And when you're feeling like you're just not your creativity is not there, you go out and you seek it out. Um, in fact, one of the things that is keeping me at bay here, and I refer to myself as being at bay because, like I said, I've got to stick the course, is actually um, falling back on the fundamentals of business practices that have been around for a long time, such as like standards, for example. So me, this way, what I've been finding very helpful is following a standard. Let's say like an ISO standard, for example, for anyone in the audience who might be familiar with that. An ISO standard is a basically proven business methods that work. A quality control process that works. And then what I do is I read through those standards and I try to apply those to my business. And what it's doing is it's using those standards and then your innovation and using that to organize the company so that you can take a step back, and you take a step back one step at a time, which is probably a segue into, how do I find myself, how do I work myself out of the day to day, and so I'm working on the business. And so, how do I stay innovative? Is referring back to those standards and trying my best ways to apply those and measure the effectiveness, et cetera.
Okay. So we've talked about 11 years in. You've mentioned that you've got now 20 employees. You've talked about having a 5-year plan, 3 to 5 year plan, where you've set the general direction and you're driving towards that. So would you be willing to offer a glimpse into what that future holds for your organization? Meaning, like, what kind of goals have you set for yourself? What do you envision for yourself as the next chapter of the entrepreneurial journey that is Roy?
So that's a very good question. And so for the evolution of Henway, this company here, this a consulting company, we spent the first chapter was just learning everything we possibly could. We took on risky business deals. We hired risky people. We invested in equipment, not knowing if it would ever pay off. But what we always had was the willingness to work hard. Then the chapter number 2 was earning. Now that we have all these people, some processes, some great machines, now it's time to earn to earn, to see what we're capable of, right? Let's put this to good use. Let's try to maximize all the people and equipment that we have, and we've been doing that for a while now. And so now this new chapter is legacy, is what I like to call it. It's, when I was younger and I wanted to start a company because I wanted to be somebody who did something different. I wanted to be somebody that would be like a role model for anyone who wanted to start an electronics design company, for example, and many other things. But now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to instead of investing heavily into growth, which is what I've been doing for long periods of time, is now investing in better workstations, cleaner workstations, better equipment for the employees, more employee perks. Let's say, for example, maybe where it's a very manual process, let's turn that into a machine process. Or an inspection process is very manual, let's turn that into a machine inspection process. Trying to empower all of the employees that work here to make everybody's day-to-day a lot easier, lower stress, and then focus on basically going out there and teaching the best practices for running one of these businesses, which kind of led me here to this taking on this podcast here in the first place, is to say, hey, look, maybe there's maybe somebody might hear this and then they're 10 years ahead of where we are and wants to offer advice. Or maybe there's somebody 10 years behind where I am and says, hey, look, what would be the best way for me to leave a legacy here if I want to start some consulting company or be involved in some technology of some kind? What would you practice? And I want to have something to say to that. And so we're investing in just investing a lot in ourselves and in our practices, and ultimately driving just a better customer experience with what we have.
Yeah, excellent. I appreciate that. So, the desires to leave a legacy, you'd love to have somebody that came alongside you that's done it, that would say, hey, Roy, here's what you need to do to really clean that up and make it look well. So let's actually go the reverse. So you've been doing this over 10 years. And final question, what advice would you give that aspiring entrepreneur, maybe that person that's in their first year that's hitting those first couple of roadblocks? What would you tell somebody at this point?
So let's say, so what I know best are people in perhaps the service-based businesses. That's just what I know best. But for anyone getting involved in that, maybe being a consultant of some kind, the best business or the best advice that I've received myself was to become an expert on something. So go out there, try to find something that somebody's doing, and research the topic a little bit, and then go out there and be a little bit vocal about it. Say, hey, I wouldn't have done it like that. I would have done it. I would have done it this way. This way would be a lot better. And eventually, someone's going to hear that advice or your leadership on that sort of topic, and they're going to want to hire you for that advice. And I would say go out there and try to find a few people willing to pay you, I don't know, $6,000, $10,000 a month for your type of service, for your type of services. And then so I lost my train of thought there. It's a go out there and try to find those people willing to pay you that five. I got lost because I started throwing the dollar signs out there. But let's say that the $10,000 a month, but keep your well, no, I want to give I gotta back up a little bit. Sorry, I hope you don't mind if we can edit that part out.
That's okay.
I think really with the advice I want to do, I'm going to start out with a bit of a different advice. What I'd like to do, advice I like to give is to, if you're going into the consultancy or service-based business, is to specialize. One of the biggest problems that I'm facing is we are a general electronics consulting company with no industry experience per se. We specialize in more or less the process. But what that does is if you're everything to everybody, then you're nothing to someone. And so what you want to do is you want to become more or less an industry expert in one topic, and then go out there and try to find someone who's talking about that topic and post your thoughts about it. As I was saying before, it's post your thoughts about it. Say, I wouldn't have done it this way. If I was somebody with this problem, I would have done it like this. And become sort of like a maybe not a thought leader per se, but somebody known for this type of a knowledge, and then stick to that. At least don't be so flighty from one idea to the next, but stay on top of that. And well, I lost my train of thought again. Sorry about that, Todd. I'm not good at giving advice. I
No, that's
struggle with
okay,
this question
Roy.
a little bit.
What I would say, what I hear you saying is it's really easy in your early stages to kind of take whatever comes your way, and when you do that, you can not specialize, and therefore you become a generalist, which means you can lose your market, right? And so if you're trying to chase too many things, nobody really knows what you do, and it's really hard to convince a prospect to come and work with you. So specializing, becoming a thought leader in that space makes it easier for people to find you, and therefore they want to buy what you do. It just may take a little longer because if you're specializing, your market segment is smaller than it would be if you were a real generalist. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, I appreciate you helping me out with that question. And so, the one thing I liked that you said the most was people need to be able to find you. And you need to be able to find these people. If you're a generalist, you can't you can't just go find a generalist newspaper and then start posting ads inside of generalist newspaper. You'll just fall into being some white noise. When you're starting a company, you got to make sure that you know exactly where to go if you want to find your next client. And so if you wanted to get a customer that was in high vibration environments or high vibration electronics, where are you going to go to find people who are reading or looking for high vibration electronics? If you can't answer those types, that basic of a question, people are going to struggle to find you and you're going to struggle to find them. Try to find an industry out there where you can picture the person and you know exactly where they're going and the exact type of stuff that you're reading, or you know where to go with the paid ads to say, look, I know that if I kick over this rock, they're going to be under this rock somewhere. Yeah. The sooner you can find that, the better.
Yeah, that's excellent, Roy. So knowing who you're targeting so that you can truly target them is the right way to go. So excellent. That is good advice. You're not so bad at giving advice as you think you are.
Thanks.
So
yeah, the working in the business versus on the business, that advice directly applies to that, because if you're taking on anything that comes your way, anything that's slightly different than what your employees are used to seeing, or your business partner, what they're used to seeing, anything that's slightly different, now you as the business owner has to be involved every step of the way. You got to be on the phone calls, you got to be reviewing their work. And if you take on completely custom contracts and completely custom deals all the time, you're going to struggle being able to find the time to work on the business, because everything is just going to be consuming you. All your employees are going to be consuming you. Your customers are going to be asking you, what were you thinking when you took on this job for us? And you'll find yourself just buried under all this weight, basically swimming with clothes on is how it's going to feel. Whereas if you can find and picture that ideal person and stick with them, you know how to market to them, you know how to bring them in, and you can deliver on that each time, you're going to have a lot easier time training your facility and the people in it.
Well, awesome. That's great advice, Roy. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time today, Roy. It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey and what Henway Technologies does. We really appreciate that. And to everybody watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thanks again, Roy.
All right. Thank you very much.